Hello Philippines, this is Eric Lecain with World News Jam. We bring you the most interesting stories from around the world each week. We just don't give you the news, but we tell you the story behind the news, as well as read and answer your questions in an entertaining and easy to understand way. So please join us on DZRJ 810 AM Radio Bandito TV and get yourself updated with all the interesting news of the week from around the world right here on DZRJ's World News Jam.
Watch and listen to World News Jam every Sunday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes, simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search DZRJ Radio Bandito.
Hello Philippines and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Eric Lecain and I'm joined as always with the beautiful in red Lali Tolentino.
Hello Eric, why are we in red tonight?
I don't know why we're in red. Maybe it's Christmas time in November. I don't know. But anyway, we are both wearing red today, matching clothes here. It's red. I just feel like red is the color of joy, and I know that a lot of people are very not disappointed, but still quite a little bit joyful about the Miss Philippines who was in the Miss Universe this week because she did rather well.
Oh, she did very well. In fact, she has a lot of awards.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of, I don't glue myself to the TV every time of the Miss Universe, but I watched a bit of it, whatever, and I know that she made it to the top 10, which is quite an achievement in itself.
Oh, yeah.
And I know a lot of people were proud of her for getting into that top 10 spot.
Oh, yeah. I even feel that she's going to make it on the top 5, but she didn't make it. Because, to be honest, there's a lot of contestants who are really, outstanding.
She's beautiful, man. She is really beautiful. But from what I understand, Miss Nicaragua, first time I think Nicaragua has ever won the Miss Universe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I don't. Here's what I think. I think they couldn't give it to Miss Philippines.
You know why? Why?
They win too many.
Yeah,
of these
too many already. They have after this, from Gloria Diaz to Margie Moran, and then Pia, and then Catriona. And remember, Eric, the Miss USA, Miss Universe last year is a Filipino-American, but she represents United States, but she's still Filipino. I said, maybe they said, no, we're not going to give it to the Philippines.
I think they knew ahead of time. It's like, all right, we'll put her in the top 10.
Yeah,
but we can't let her win.
Yeah, but she got, like I said, she represented the country very, very well. I personally very proud of Michelle Marquez D, who happens to be the daughter of our Miss International Melanie Marquez and the brother of Mel Marquez Lapid, who's our co-host with the other show.
He's been on DZRJ here. In fact, Melanie's been in the studio here a couple of times to have a talk with us. So, but congratulations to them, the whole family, to the woman that's very proud. The Philippines very proud of their contestant in the Miss Universe pageant, making the top 10. Speaking of top 10 lists, let's bring it down a little bit. What other top 10 list the Philippines tends to get into, which I looked this up this week for a specific reason. The Philippines keeps getting on the top 10 list of the places where you can get scammed the most.
Yes. Tell me more, Eric, about scam, okay?
All right, well, it seems
tell me more.
That nearly, this year alone, Filipinos have lost nearly 200 million pesos in bank scams this year, and they keep getting on that top 10 list. Some places have them at number 10. Some lists have them at number 6, number 7. Some have them at number 1. Although in general, Nigeria keeps taking the number 1 spot. But there's a reason, obviously, Lolly, that I'm talking about this. I have been scammed several times.
Yeah. And to my surprise, Eric, we've been talking about scam, and we've been trying to tell our audience or our people to, be careful.
Be careful.
You might get scam, and now you are the victim of this
victim
scam.
Again. I've been scammed before, mostly with my credit card. I will use my credit card, which I try not to use, and I'll use it. And sure enough, a couple weeks later, another charge shows up on there from some other country, even though I just use it at the grocery store. You'll see a charge pop up, and they always know that they'll charge it for 98,000 pesos or something like that.
Well, that's too little, but let me interrupt you on this one. One of our actors, one of the actresses, 𝗪cie𝗿𝗀, was charged 600,000 on her credit card just a few days ago, not too long ago.
I mean, the good thing about a credit card is you can trace it back.
Yeah.
The problem with the thing that happened to me on this past Friday, now it's so funny because I am always talking to people. I know so many people who have been scammed here in the Philippines. In fact, almost everybody I know has some story that they tell about how the bank, has something happened to them, or GCash. Almost everybody I know has got some kind of scam with the GCash. But this one, I'm always talking to people about it and explain to them, don't, give this, give the note, don't. So here I am, getting a call from my bank, who shall remain nameless, although they do start with a B and end with an I. But anyway, they call me up and they say, your rewards points, you need to collect them or they're going to disappear. And I do. They knew I had they knew I had a gold card. They knew what the number was. They knew what my account number was. They knew me. And I said, like me, I'm like, oh, okay, what do I do? Well, we'll just transfer it to your account. We'll just transfer the points to your account. I'm like, okay, fine. First thing you need to do is you need to upgrade your software. Sure enough, I went to my software. I needed to upgrade it. And then they said, blah, 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 blah. We'll send you your number, and then it's, the number. And then once you got the number, we'll transfer the money into your account. And I'm doing a bunch of things at the same time. And they, transfer me the number, and they said, this is the security number. We never asked for your password. Security number. Okay, here's the number. Blah. Anyway, 5 minutes later, I'm like, wait a second. And I went and looked at my email account, and sure enough, they had withdrawn the exact amount of the rewards points that I had that they needed. So, and they transferred it to a GCash account. Anyway,
goodness.
I felt really stupid. I mean, it's not so much money that it's going to kill me, but it's painful, and you feel like an idiot. But the thing was, I for life of me can't figure out how they did it. I can't figure it out. I can't figure out how they knew all this information unless somehow they knew someone that worked in the bank. Now, I mean, obviously you can't say that because I have no proof or anything, but how, I'm just amazed at how they were able to pull this off. And then I was talking to a friend of mine that I work with, and he said he had a woman just last week, exactly the same thing. Exactly, almost word for word.
Yeah, is it like, the same bank?
Same bank.
Oh my God.
Same bank.
All right. This is one thing I really don't understand, because in the first place, Eric, when it comes to rewards, the bank don't really call. They will just text you, or maybe email you, some reminder that you have this reward that would expire on March 2024, something like that. In your case, they called you.
They called me.
And you maybe you're busy, maybe sometimes you don't pay attention, and without you knowing it, you're already giving something.
It seems so routine, and she sounded exactly like what someone would sound like from the bank, because I've gotten calls from the bank before, and it sounded just like that. And they said, and here we'll send you. And every time she would say, we're going to send you something, they would send it. They would send it. It would come through. And I don't know, I was just, like I said, I was paying attention to something else, and it just seemed such a blasé thing. I mean, it was rewards points, who cares? But all of a sudden, I realized that they were able to take the amount of my rewards point out of my account. And so I called up the bank, and then the bank's like, all right, we'll shut down everything. And so the bank shut everything down. But the problem was that the time it took to get through to the bank, it took about 40 minutes to get through to the bank, because you have to call them, and then you have to wait. and then finally you get through. And then but here's the interesting thing. They had the account number of the GCash, the person. So
they have it. I mean, okay. Well, I think you know what? If they were able to trace where the money was transferred, they can they can trace it back. All they have to do is report it to Cybercrime Division.
Yeah, I mean, I looked this up. They said, well, you should probably call GCash and you should report it. But you can't really call GCash.
Oh no, you cannot. All you have to do, look at that, Eric. Okay, the GCash, they all they have to do is message. They have a call center.
Yeah, I did all the stuff. I called their number and it's just a recorded message.
Yeah.
And then you go on and you submit a ticket. I did all the stuff. You're supposed to. They said they'll reach you back in 24 hours, but I guess. Not yet. It's been 24 hours, but I haven't got anything back yet. Wow. But I did look on GCash's thing, because we have a thing like this in the United States. We have something called Zelle that we use in the United States, which is very much like GCash. Now, with Zelle in the United States, if you have any instance of fraud, they will return the money that you've been frauded with. In GCash, it says very clearly on the thing, we will never return any money to you for fraudulent transactions.
Oh wow!
So I'm just like, crap.
Oh my goodness.
It's just weird how I'm just surprised at how they knew so much information. And like I said, I've had multiple banks in the United States for, 40 years. And you know how many times I've been scammed in the United States? 0.
Wow.
But the Philippines,
Eric,
many times.
They always say only in the Philippines.
Only in the Philippines.
Well, that's too bad, but I hope you can get it back. I mean, I hope the bank can help you trace it back. And
I'm sure that the bank who I have used for years, they're super nice, and they do everything they can. The last time this happened on my credit card, they helped me, they worked with me, so I can't fault the bank. This particular thing, I think I don't know how that they were able to do this. But what I should not have done is when they said to me, we need to get this done today because your points are going to run out by this afternoon. I should have hung up the phone and called the bank and asked them at the bank.
Yeah.
That's what I should have done. If anybody calls you up and they're talking about, but they knew exactly how many rewards points. I don't know how would they know this?
Well,
I don't know.
They've been watching your record. You've been being monitored by this whoever.
They would have to know for years, that I've been doing. So anyway, this is. I guess I'm just telling this story today because it's just so much easier than you think to get. And I have multiple friends who are smart, college educated people who are smart. Mostly the scams have come through GCash, but they, people call them up and they're like, we can raise your limit on your GCash. Okay, great. And then before they know it, they've lost, everything in their GCash. So, I guess anytime anybody calls you up at all, just be suspicious.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to have to really be suspicious about anything. Anything that anytime anybody calls, because
and that's one thing I learned also, Eric. If I don't know the number, like somebody's calling me, I don't answer, because if, for example, that's you calling me in my regular phone, and just in case, I don't answer because I don't know your name. Maybe you change your number or whatever, so I will not pick up my phone. All you have to do is text me, Lali, this is Eric.
Yeah.
Please, that's all you have to do. And sometimes I was surprised also because in my phone I see it says suspected spam or something. So the more that I will not answer, I report it with Globe, and they said, Mom, in case you have a call like that, don't answer.
Don't answer it.
Yeah, just don't answer, period.
And I'm smiling right now, but inside I'm still crying about what has happened. But anyway, we'll wait. I'll update you. I'll update you next week. But I'm staying on this kind of similar genre. There's a word that I keep hearing. A lot of times we'll do word of the week, and there was a word that I've heard a couple times now. And this week I thought we would talk about it. It's called infodemic.
All right.
And I don't know if you've heard of this, Nevis. It's basically a virus on scientific and medical information.
All right.
These days, speaking of trusting our financial institutions, our trust in our experts is becoming less and less. especially in the science and medical community. And this is coming to the point where it's hurting us and hurting our children. It's even causing our death sometimes. Of course, one of the largest victims of an infodemic is the COVID vaccine. Millions of people have died from the vaccine. The vaccine can change your DNA. Bill Gates has put a microchip in the vaccine that can track you. Vaccine can make you magnetic. The vaccine can make you infertile. It was created from fetal tissue. COVID variants were actually caused by the vaccine. I can keep going, but there are many infodemic conspiracy theories about the vaccine. You know, one of the things that I think it's just, you know, my argument in trying to convince people who are not taking the vaccine, and I keep saying people, you know, not taking the vaccine is worse than taking it. And, you know, they say, well, you know, I read on Facebook 1,000 people died in Cebu from taking the vaccine. And, you know, I'd always say, you know, all right, but that's not news. Why is it not in the news? Why is it not in CNN? It seems like it would be in CNN if you know, 1,000 people died. And then they would say, well, the first thing they say, well, it's cover up.
Well, you know, that's a hell of a story because, you know, when you know, during the pandemic, they always, some of my friends, we argued on issues about, you know, having vaccine or no vaccine at all. And I said, okay, I will take the risk of having a vaccine, which I did. All the vaccine offered, given to us by the government, all for free. All you have to make your effort, go and line up and get your vaccine. I'm still alive. A lot of people are still alive.
I mean, when I was growing up, we never questioned science.
No.
It was fact. Whatever they said, the science. When the school lined us up to take a vaccine at gym class, we did it. And now I watch TV and parents are taking schools to court to stop forcing their children to be vaccinated. And these vaccines are proven to stop children from getting like horrible contagious diseases like the measles, even things like tetanus. You know, people are like, oh, well, we can't trust the tetanus shot. Tetanus is caused, you know, what is tetanus caused by? Stepping on a rusty nail. Continuing on through this, because obviously I'm getting to a point here. Usually I get to a point where there's a study involved. So there's a study that came out this week, which we'll get into. But one thing I find interesting that's another victim of the infodemic is climate change. You know, and I think to myself, why? Why would people be so, you know, they can't believe, you know, the scientists are all making this climate change thing up. And you know, and you know, who is it that wants to think, you know, it's tied into the people who make the windmills.
Oh my goodness.
Really? Anyway, so like I was saying, there was a survey that came out this week, and I love to watch these surveys, especially I watch the Pew Research surveys because they're the big ones, the big world surveys. They came out with a thing that said it turns out that more people these days are turning away from science, and I thought this was such an interesting story, which has got away. That's what we talk about here on the World News Jam, interesting stories going on around the world, that they are picking conspiracy theories based on these made-up stories rather than the data created in these non-biased science labs. But you know, I read this survey, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe how many people don't trust. In the survey that they did, do not trust what scientists are telling us these days. But it did say one thing. There was one good thing that it said that more people trust in scientists these days than trust in politicians or journalists. So there you go.
Yeah, it all started, Eric, if I'm not mistaken, during the pandemic. It's all started there.
A lot of it started then. I mean, there was the vaccine people before, but during the pandemic, it really blew up.
Yes, there's so many stories that time. That's why people are like, you know, they're fighting over something, which is, I was really amazed also, and I was surprised. Why did this happen? Why is this happening now? It started with the politician.
The politicians. The
politician in U.S., to be exact. When, you know, the time when the former president of the United States and some people there were accusing Dr. Fauci Remember that? I mean,
Dr. Fauci, the leading expert in the world on
yes,
virology.
for how he served how many presidents
I
of
know.
the United
I think
States?
six presidents.
And now they don't believe him. They accuse him. They even threaten to kill him. Things like that. I mean, there's so many stories around the world which changed the whole thing. Now with the scientists, and now the climate change. They don't believe in the climate change. Look what's happening. Remember, Eric, here in the Philippines, we just had an earthquake in Sarangani area, in Mindanao area. Remember? So how did this happen again? And so many things is happening. Everything is all about climate change now. So what do we do?
I mean,
Believe it or don't believe it?
I mean, the thing that I have a problem with is, science is based on this thing called facts.
Yes.
And it's really hard to dispute sometimes these facts. And people go, well, everything is they blame everything on climate change. Well, I mean, I guess there's certain things. I mean, you can't, the issue about, earthquakes and volcanoes. But the interesting thing is, I mean, volcanoes and earthquakes actually contribute to climate change. Well, it's not man-made climate change, but they contribute to the issues, especially volcanoes. So, all this is all tied together on why this happens. And so I think, in looking at the vaccine, people say, well, the vaccine, it can kill you. It can kill you. Of course it can kill you. So can penicillin. So can the flu shot. So can peanuts.
Everything.
Everything can kill you these days. But the fact that, the chances of you surviving, and people on their deathbeds are going, you know what, I should have listened to the science. They're dying, and they're like, I should have taken the vaccine. Because, of the 99.99% of the people that took the vaccine did fine. Yes, there's going to be a small percentage that just, some people are destined to die from whatever reason. Mm-hmm. They're destined to die from, accidentally, a candy goes down the wrong windpipe and they choke to death. I mean, some people are destined, like I said, you can die from anything these days. But the chances of you dying from the vaccine, according to scientific fact, not from Facebook, is very small. And people kept saying, Eric, I don't think, we can't trust. And I'm like, no, you can't trust this. If you see it, well, we can't trust CNN, we can't trust the BBC, we can't trust anybody. We can't trust anybody now. But when I was growing up, or not even growing up, 10 years ago, we kind of could. We kind of did trust the CDC. Now, we can't trust the CDC. It's a political organization.
Oh, yes.
Not really.
That is really something that I sometimes that's why I turn off, my television when I hear something like that, because, I told myself, if I'm going to listen to these people, talking about this, sorry for the stupid things, my mind will, I don't know what will happen to me. I'm going to crack my head or brain. I said, forget about this. I am going to believe whatever is the fact, what is been tested, there's a proof for everything.
There is, when it comes to that. There is proof, there is, But anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because the Pew Research people came out. I know we need to get to the news, but,
that's still the news.
Speaking of things, we have to, first thing, getting it, speaking of infodemics, things that, coming out that might be true and might not be true. Let's get to Israel, because Israel's under the gun on some things that they've been saying, on the things that they've been doing, and they have to explain themselves. An attack was, perpetuated on a hospital in Gaza, and Israel says they claim they had the right to infiltrate this hospital this past Wednesday because there's a tunnel running under the hospital, and they showed a video of what looks like a hole in the ground. Now, they did a geolocation check on this hole, and it turns out it's not that close to the hospital, and there's no video of the actual tunnel. But the UN is now telling Israel it needs to let them come and investigate this if it is indeed a real tunnel, because they need to let us know, justify the reason why that they are going into this, this hospital. And Israelis claiming that Hamas is using the hospital as a place to store guns and ammunition. A claim that Hamas and the hospital, of course, call ridiculous. So the UN official has said this is precisely where you need an independent international investigation because we have different stories from each of you. The UN said you cannot use hospitals for any military purposes, but you also cannot attack a hospital in the absence of clear evidence that is being used for military purposes.
All right. Okay, let me cut you there, Eric. I mean, this is what I can say. All right. How are they going to investigate when there's an ongoing war?
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to Israel's going to have to take them in because Israel won't let anybody come in. So Israel's going to have to bring them in and let them investigate.
Yeah, but sometimes if you think about this, because like we talked about last week, we don't know whom to believe here. There are journalists being killed because of so many things. So this is hard. This is really difficult. And sometimes it's not, I mean, like me, I don't want to watch it anymore, but I have to.
Yeah, I mean, because we talk about it here on the World News Jam on DZRJ.
Yeah, exactly. So
we have to know.
It's so, sometimes I just, because, this thing is ongoing for already, what, a month?
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. And we have no way to verify anything.
Yes, exactly.
From either side.
Yeah.
Because we can't go in. We can't get in to verify it.
Yeah, we will.
Who would want to go in? Bombs going everywhere. But the Israelis have taken over this hospital, and the UN inspectors are saying, listen, you need to let us come in and take a look at this. Because there's some fishiness. There's some fishy stuff going on here. Like, how come you didn't take a video inside the tunnel? And why is the geolocation not where you say it is? So they want to come in and they want to take a look. And so I don't understand. I think that this might be a time for Israel, unless Israel's not telling the truth, but if Israel's telling the truth, let them in. Let them come in and look in the hole. Let them walk around in the tunnel if they want. But this is too much. The fact that Israel is saying, listen, there's a tunnel under this hospital, and Hamas and the hospital is saying, that's ridiculous. There's no tunnel under this hospital. So somebody's fibbing.
Okay, so let them come in and see for themselves and see what happened.
They went, the guy, the UN official there, he said, medical facilities, medical personnel, they need to have, special protection. So, Israel has come out, they accuse Hamas of having, command centers under a multi-layered network of tunnels that goes directly under the hospital. Now, they also said that there is a tunnel under the children's hospital in Gaza, which is another hospital. And so, they have to, they need to come up with proof of that. But the government there in Gaza is denying all of this, of course. Who can guess that? They're saying this is false scenarios, fabricated narrative, distorted information. The issue that we're having right now, which is going to be a problem later, Lolly, is that right now Israel is on the balance of being credible or not being credible, because they've said some things, like we said last week, that turned out not to be exactly correct. So, of course, the Arabics don't believe anything that they say. But it's more important for the world because, Israel is very important to a lot of people. The country itself is very important to many, many people. I mean, how many, Christians are in the world? I mean, it's a very important space.
Yeah.
So it's important that they build their credibility back up, I think. And I just think, from looking at all this, if there are indeed tunnels in there, let's verify it. And then that would justify what you're doing. Because I think it's what is, so far, 11,470 people have died since they started bombing. 4,707 of them were children. So they need to justify why they are doing this. And if they can justify that there is a tunnel running underneath the hospital, I guess they have a reason.
Let's see. Let's wait for that. Because we cannot go there. I cannot help them.
I know. I mean, what can we do? What's interesting, Lolly, is 5 countries have come out and said that, and here again, this is what I talk about, the credibility and how, when we started this whole war, everybody looked at the videos of Hamas and were like, oh my goodness, Hamas is the villain. And then as this thing has progressed, the tide has been changing in the world. And this week, 5 countries have asked the International Criminal Court to look in the attacks of Israel, that they're the ones that they are inflicting on Gaza. They want an investigation into war crimes that are committed against Israel. So, and you know what's really weird? You know what these countries are? Now, first thing, the International Criminal Court is already investigating Israel from things that they did in 2014 and 2021, where they bombed and killed civilians. We had sort of talked about this before, and so they're being investigated already for those. So they're calling for investigations now. But the interesting thing is the countries that are asking for investigations are South Africa, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Comoros, and Djibouti.
Djibouti.
Interesting, isn't it? But those would be the countries that are demanding an investigation. I don't know. I just thought it was a bit odd.
That's kind of weird for me.
But basically, well, the International Criminal Court should be investigating Hamas. They can't. It's not really their jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Because Hamas is not they're not the leader of Israel.
No, they're not. They're not.
So, anyway, so that's where we are right now in Israel, and we're going to continue to look at this as it progresses, even though Lolly doesn't want to watch it because it's so hard to watch.
Yeah.
Honestly, it is. To see how this thing balances out and to see who comes out, and who wins the propaganda war, because that seems to be one of the most important parts of this war.
Somebody's doing propaganda, so that's why it's hard.
Yeah,
I mean, whom to believe here.
Who's the world going to stand behind? And so this is, and everybody's waiting to see. The United States is sitting back and going, all right, let's see who we're gonna stand behind here. Speaking of the United States, good old President Biden met with good old President Xi this week there in the United States. Yeah. In the midst of all the tension between the United States and Canada, United States and China, the fact that they haven't spoken in over a year. I didn't realize that they had not spoken at all, and a lot's happened in that year between the United States and China to create, I guess, mountains of distrust, each consistently blaming the other for everything from Taiwan to trade to the Philippines. And I've been waiting a long time to say this. It's a lot of he said, she said. I kind of stole that.
Well.
Anyway. But anyway, Lolly. So from the back row, they seem to be talking again.
Yeah. And then I heard when President Biden says that, they have, I think they can agree that, if there's something, they can call each other directly.
Yeah, that's the key.
That's the key.
It's a thing. The only thing that they settled this week was that they need to have communication.
Yeah, exactly. That's what everybody needs, communication.
Yeah.
Open communication. And look what happened. I mean, that summit was, and to be, there's a good outcome, actually. Between the U.S. and China, in other countries as well. So this is what the leaders need. Get together, talk about their issues, whatever it is, help each other. I mean, because there's already war. There's already Ukraine, Russia, Israel, and, Hamas and all this thing. We don't need more conflict in the world. No more. Please stop it.
Listen to Lolly Tolentino. That's what Biden said. Biden said the one good thing that came out of this, because when you have open communication, the chances of accidents are less to happen. And that's what they were so worried about, especially in the Philippine Sea, is an accident. Somehow, accidentally, some young military guy who's on the boat for 1 month accidentally shoots his gun and kills somebody. Or they accidentally misfire a cannon, or something happens, an accident, and now all of a sudden everybody's pulling in their destroyers and their giant ships and pointing their guns at each other. So this is what I think Biden was like hoping for. Now Biden did some things that the Chinese didn't, because they didn't really agree much on anything. But like I said, they didn't take many steps forward, but they also didn't take many steps back. They kind of met in the middle. But one thing Biden did, which he keeps doing, he called Xi a dictator. On the way out, he said, I don't remember exactly, so that,
Well, but you know what? I understand his explanation of calling him a dictator. He is really a dictator because, he's running a communist country.
Yeah,
what do you call?
He kind of is.
Yeah, what do you call somebody who's running a communist country? All right, if it is like, for example, the Philippines, we are not a communist country. So we cannot call our president dictator, but of course some people would call, if you are running the country, if you're very strict, they call you a dictator.
Yeah.
But there's always a
dictators out there.
But like some friend says, because the media is trying to blow it away. Like make it a little controversial by But I understand when the president says, because he is running a communist country. That's the way how we lead this country.
That's that's where he is. Made himself president for life, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. It's the law. It's their whatever you call it.
But Xi, he's a smart fella. He said, the door to China-U.S. relations cannot be closed again because now it's open. He said we need to build more bridges and pave more roads between each other.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Very nice. Maybe he really mean it well. So why not give him a chance? And why are we making enemies?
Yeah.
Why don't we make friends? Reach out. Make a call.
Reach out, make a call.
I'm just one text away, Eric.
Get him on speed dial there. But anyway. But thinking about the things that they talked about, Biden, of course, asked Xi to please help stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States, which is one of the biggest causes of death in the United States right now. So China said, okay, we'll make a deal to target the companies known for smuggling the drug and the chemicals to make the drug into the United States. And Biden also asked Xi, please tell Iran not to get involved in the Israeli conflict. Now, they even talked about artificial intelligence. But of course, the elephant in the room, Taiwan. They made no major steps forward in that issue of Taiwan. But like I said, they didn't take any steps back. So we're just kind of staying where we are with that. But at least the communication has started, which is downsizing the chances for something to an accident or anything to escalate.
Yes. Okay. That's good enough. For me, when I see them, step on the American soil, welcomed by the president.
Yeah.
That's a good sign already. Let's continue doing that. All leaders in the world.
So I remember back when he met Donald Trump, and the one big thing that Donald Trump talked about was the cake.
What?
Oh, the beautiful chocolate cake. She loved the chocolate cake because we were enjoying, and that's pretty much what they talked about. But anyway. But speaking about buying chocolate cake, George Santos is back in the news.
Your favorite
with some shocking revelations. Actually, they're not really that shocking.
All right, tell me more, Eric. Tell us more.
We love to talk about George Santos here on the World News Jam. He's the congressman, by the way, who won the seat by lying about everything. And we know how politicians will fudge the truth. But George took it to a whole new level. Anyway, the Republicans had decided not to kick him out of Congress because they really needed his vote. So they left him in, and we've talked about him a lot here in the show. Go back into it. But however, they realized, you know what? He's hurting us more than he's helping us. He's becoming the face of us. So the Ethics Committee this week released a relentless report on him, just scathing report about this guy. And the next day, the chairman of the committee, a Republican, said, all right, this guy's got to go. So George came out and said, all right, listen, I tell you what, I'm not going to run in the next election. And they're like, oh, no, you're going to need to get out right now. So, even the Republicans that backed him before are like, all right, we can see where this is going. He's he is quickly becoming the face of the Republican Party alongside Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Wow, your two favorite person.
Two people. So multiple Republicans have come out in favor of expelling him from Congress. Now, getting rid of a congressman in the United States is not easy because you need 2/3 of the House to vote against him. Currently, George is under federal indictment of 23 charges, including misuse of campaign funds, fraud in order to receive COVID unemployment benefits,
Oh my God.
lying about his personal finances. It goes on and on. I'm not going to read all these things. So the Ethics Committee said, you know what's interesting? There's an Ethics Committee in the U.S. Congress. It's just hard to believe. They've even covered, more stuff. And I think this is something that you knew about, Lolly, that he used campaign funds to get Botox injections.
Oh yeah, I was laughing when I heard about this. When I was reading about it, my goodness, Botox? No wonder his face is like that. Even his lips. He has this.
He's got those extra bulging lips.
Yes. I think it's
he
from
bought
Botox.
designer goods. He went on lavish trips with his husband.
Oh, he has a husband.
He has a husband.
All right.
He was married to. He had a wife, and now all of a sudden he has a husband. I don't know.
All right.
But the big thing they uncovered was all the trouble he went in order to hide all of this. So he's always said, well, no, this is just bias. I could, they can't look at my. No, he went to trouble to hide what he was doing. He knew that he was doing something wrong. So, according to the officials, he blatantly stole from his campaign for his own personal benefit. Who does that sound like? Anyway, after the report came, George took to Twitter, or X, whatever you call it, says that, it's a disgusting, politicized, seminar showing the depths of how low our federal government has sunk to come after me. Anyway, he said if there is a single ounce of ethics in the Ethics Committee, they would not have released this bias report against me.
Oh.
And this is coming from the guy that wore the scarf that he stole from his roommate to a Stop the Steal rally.
Oh.
Anyway, for Trump. So anyway, he spent $3,000 on his Botox injections and went on a honeymoon to Las Vegas with his husband, yada, yada, yada. But the interesting thing that I find about this, and this will lead into the next story, was the Republicans are coming out, George, but he hasn't done half of what Donald Trump has done. So, I mean, getting Botox is one thing, but taking campaign contributions to pay your legal bills to deal with your case of having sex with a porn star seems a little bit higher. But then again, right now, Trump can raise money, but right now, George, he cannot raise money.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's left him dry. But anyway, Trump is in the news this week.
Well,
can you believe that?
Yeah, well, it's not new to me anymore, Eric. He's always in the news, and he loves it.
He loves to be in the news. But Trump is in the news for an assortment of things. But I just want to talk about one, because I want to get your opinion on this. He used the word vermin. That's another word of the day. Do you know what vermin means?
It's the...
Vermin is rats. Rats and mice. That's what vermin are. And he used it in a rally. He said, Trump said, we pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin in the confines of our country.
Are you talking about yourself?
I guess I'm vermin.
No.
So,
you know what I mean.
So he went on to tell of how he didn't allow millions of people to invade the country, referring to the U.S., and he's getting rid of the ones, that he's going to get rid of all this vermin. And, what do people, when it comes to vermin, most people, they hate vermin. They hate rats. They're afraid of rats. Of
course, yeah.
But what is interesting and what shocked a lot of people was there's another leader that uses the word vermin.
Who?
And used it quite a bit in his speeches, and that was Adolf Hitler. He said that we need to get rid of the vermin, meaning the Jews. We need to get rid of the Jews. So Trump said that once he regains the office of the president, he's going to institute sweeping policies to round up all the immigrants and put them in camps and have mass deportations. Trump is talking that if anybody is the enemy of him, they are
Mm-hmm.
enemy of the United States.
Wow. I'm scared. Thank God I'm not American, and thank God I'm not immigrant.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, because if you're a Filipino and you're in the United States right now and Trump wins,
Good
you get
luck.
a little bit worried there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
he's talked about his policies, and all his policies come down to one thing, and that's revenge.
Yeah.
Revenge on all
Yeah,
the
he's
people.
more
that
on
have been-
revenge. But the thing that I always, every time I watch, he's leading in the poll.
He's leading.
He's
in
leading,
the
and
polls.
and
I mean,
it's
not
a-
in all the polls, but he's
Oh, yeah,
leading in the
yeah.
polls that really matter. I've said this before, Lolly, that the United States is really based on 5 states. We have 50 states, but the election really comes down to these 5 states.
Which is?
I think it's Ohio and Pennsylvania and Florida and Nevada and Arizona, I think. Maybe Wisconsin. Because we don't take the popular vote. We use this thing called the Electoral College. And the Electoral College is pretty much, we already know which way all the states are going to flip. We know that this state is Republican, Alabama is always Republican. We know that New York is always Democrat. We know that California is always Democrat. Colorado, we know that Texas is always Republican. But there are certain states we don't know. And it's pretty much split right down the middle. It's 50-50, almost exactly. So it comes down to these 5 states. Who's going to win those 5 states? And that's how Trump won the first election, is he campaigned only in those states.
Oh yeah.
And
because probably-
didn't bother with New York, he didn't bother with California. He just went to Wisconsin. And that
Yeah.
was the fault of Hillary Clinton. She did not go to those states. But anyway, so there is a chance that Donald Trump may win.
All right. Good luck, United States.
I mean, we got a year to go. We got a year to go.
Yeah, a year ago. So a lot of things will
Little less
can
than a year.
happen.
So
yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
things can happen. I mean, Trump
But for now-
he could go to jail. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting, the speech that he gave this week, which used the word vermin. And the way he gave the speech was not far from what we heard back in the 1930s,
Yeah,
around
from
World War
Hitler,
II,
from all this, yeah.
even Mussolini. So
Well, did you notice that all the people that he's trying to copy are the people who are, like Hitler. He like a Russian leader. He like all those people. That,
he loves those guys. He loves Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. I mean, you can already see. I mean, from my personal view on that is that because he wants to be like them.
He wants to be them. He
Yeah.
would love to be Hitler.
Yeah,
I mean,
Hitler. This is what I'm going to do.
It's what I'm going to get rid of everybody in the
Yeah,
government
exactly.
that is, and I'm going to put in only the people that will do exactly what I tell them
Yeah,
to do.
exactly. So
Which is what he didn't do when he first came in.
So the word dictator should be applied to him in case.
Good old Mr. Trump. I mean, and if they don't put him in jail, maybe they can send him to outer space on one of Elon Musk's new rockets.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
SpaceX. We're moving over to space news now. The Starship. They took a shot at that thing this week. They blasted that thing off into space. They tried this back in April. They fired off one of these. This rocket is enormous. It is huge. It's 120 meters long.
Wow.
And the purpose of this rocket is to take me and you, Lolly, to Mars.
Oh.
So hopefully that's our plan, is we're going to go to Mars. So this rocket's supposed to be the rocket to take people to Mars. But the problem with this rocket, it keeps blowing up. So they tried it in April, and when they tried it in April, it didn't separate. The booster rocket didn't separate, blew up.
Yeah, it blew up.
So they tried it this week again, and it did separate. However, the booster rocket blew up. Spectacularly blew up.
Oh my God.
And the rocket itself, it shot up into space. I think it got 90 miles up into space. I think the break is 60 miles, I believe. I'm not sure. I think it's 62 miles, where they determine that you're in outer space. And then they lost contact.
Wow.
They don't know where it went.
You know what, Eric? I don't want to go to Mars anymore if I'm going to
know
take
about this.
SpaceX because I'm sure I'm still here, but I'll be dead. Never mind.
I don't want. So, but according to Elon Musk and the people there, this is what they call a successful failure.
Successful failure.
Yeah, that's what they call
Okay,
it.
whatever.
My piano teacher used to say, if you're going to make a mistake, make a good one. And so anyway, this week they made a good one.
Well, it's like we call it it's just a practice.
Just a practice run.
expensive one.
$1 billion. But the 33, what they call them, heavy 33 powerful Rapport engines. In the first one, it malfunctioned on the ascent, and the booster rocket blew up, and the whole thing didn't separate. But this one, they tried again with the same things. And, you know, Elon Musk has come out and said this a couple times: test early, break it, and learn. And according to them, when it did separate and it flew off into space, now they lost it. What they think happened is the automatic self-destruct triggered because it was damaged. And it triggered, and when it saw that it had a damage, it blew itself up. We don't really know. But anyway, they said that they got a lot of data, and they understand now something that they didn't know before, and they're going to try and fix it. Now, what's interesting about this thing is, you know, it's really something. It fires off, when it leaves the lift, it's 2,000 degrees Celsius. So hot that it cracks the concrete that it lifts off from. So it's so hot, it evaporates all the surrounding water. Like all of it. There's a giant pool around it. All the water disappears. But anyway, it was supposed to make a revolution, one revolution around the Earth, but it didn't make it. But what they want to do is they really want to get this thing done. They really want to get it done because they haven't sent anybody to the moon since the Apollo mission. And you know what? Everybody else is trying to get to the moon, including China. And the United States wants to get back to the moon before China does, or before India does, or before Pakistan does. One of these countries, they want to get there first. So they really want this thing to work.
Well, I hope they can, you know, make it work again. I mean, they did not. They failed, so.
I don't know. What's it called? A good failure?
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to get to this week, you know, I try and find the most interesting stories because we're about out of time here. And so I want to do a little bit of climate news. I'd want to do climate news every week. But a new study came out this week that just, you know, I'm reading through stuff, whatever, and this one just caught my eye. And I know there's a lot of crazy stuff on the web out there. But I really looked into, they really did a lot of work on this study. And they said that as the temperature of the Earth rises, more people with mental health issues are dying. Oh. Now, weird, huh? So at first I'm like, oh, this is crazy. But it said it includes people with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and anxiety. According to British Columbia, it had a heat wave, and more people died who suffered from severe mental health problems than kidney disease or coronary artery disease. So now they're making a link between climate change and people dying. And now they even have a link between, I don't know what you're going to say, climate change and suicide. Oh. They say that during these extreme heat periods, more people kill themselves.
Really?
Yeah, they said that now, you know, it's the hottest now I think it's ever been recorded that humans have ever been on Earth. And they said the number of suicides in the areas that have these incredible heat waves, the suicide level goes up during those heat waves. So I think that's where they're getting all this stuff. So anyway, this huge study about this. And that the, you know, places where there's air pollution and droughts and wildfires, they found a link between people with high anxiety and increased numbers of suicides during those times. And the reason is, Lolly, this is not just some crazy thing. It turns out that there's a part of the brain, the anterior hypothalamus, which controls the body's temperature. It's the part of the brain that tells you when to shiver when it's cold or sweat when you're too hot. And it sends signals to the rest of your brain for behavioral actions, such as, you know, when you're hot, you drink a glass of cold water, or you put on a coat when it's cold. So when you have a mental disorder, such as schizophrenia or bipolar, manic depression, it impairs the neurotransmissions or information to that part of the brain.
Oh.
So there's a little bit to this. It says the chemicals in the brain, such as serotonin and dopamine, are usually abnormally low in these patients, and this throws the hypothalamus out of whack, which causes problems in the person's mental issues to elevate. And then when the serotonin is out of whack, and it tells the body, it doesn't tell the body to sweat when it needs to. And that's what makes the body, you know, the brain tells the body, okay, you know, listen, something's going on, we need to sweat. And it stops that. And that's what causes these problems. And I just found this so fascinating. You know, not that we're always looking for something to blame climate change on, but isn't it interesting that in all these places that had these incredible heat waves, the number of suicides went way up during the time that it was hot. And this is the reason that they're giving.
Probably there's a mental effect. I mean, I don't know. But, well, if there's a study, maybe it's really true.
I mean, when I get too hot, I just hate everybody. So I just get mad and yell at everybody. But sometimes, I guess if you have a specific chemical imbalance in your body, and when your body gets hot, you cannot send the signals. It creates, instead of it's sending the signals to your body to tell you, it creates more anxiety, more schizophrenia, more mental impairment.
Which I guess it's really true, because it happened to me. If the weather, if it is hot, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, I cannot explain myself. And that's really get into my system when the weather is hot. When it's cold, well, it's different. So what the tendency of us, if every time we feel hot, we go to, as much as possible, airy, open area, or we go to air-conditioned room.
Yeah.
And then we feel better.
We know to do this. But
Yeah.
if you have a mental disorder, it may not send the signals to the brain to tell the brain, hey, we need to go into an air-conditioned thing. So you just sit there and you're just hot until, the chemical imbalances in your body makes you want to, do something like commit suicide. So anyway, I guess as a final note here, if you're feeling hot, go into the air conditioning.
Yeah.
Don't commit suicide.
Yeah.
Try not to get hot.
Yeah.
I mean, most people in the Philippines are used to it. I know in the rest of the world, some of these heat waves, people are definitely not used to. I mean,
Yeah.
in some places where the temperature never gets above a certain point, and now it's 10 degrees above that point for months. And people just aren't used to it. And so chemical imbalances are happening, and people are just going crazy.
Yeah.
So climate change is making us all crazy.
Yeah, look at I mean, here everywhere in the Philippines, most of the people are wearing sleeveless. Some men you're walking around without shirt.
I know. So on Lolly's note there, on walking around without a shirt, I feel like I need to go and take my shirt off now. But we are out of time, and that's something we don't want to see. So for me, Eric Lecain and Lolly Tolentino here on the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJTV. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday evening with us. We'll be back next week with more interesting stories from around the world. So until then, everybody be safe out there, and we'll see you next week.
The views and comments of the hosts and